Lesson 4-3, multiplying decimals. Before we go to the lesson proper, let's take a look at how to multiply decimals using models. Okay, this is a decimal model over 1 unit, and let's see how we use this to be able to multiply, let's say, zero point 0.7 times 0.05. To be able to multiply these two decimals, let's follow these steps. Draw a 10 by 10 square. Recall that each small square represents 0.01. Okay, so if you have that 10 by 10 square, color 7 rows of the model blue to represent 0.7. So we get this, and we represent it with 0.7 right there. Okay, 7 tenths, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 10 has been shaded. Color 5 of the yellow, of the model yellow, to represent 0.5. Let's not choose yellow, let's choose green, 0.5. Okay, let's do that better. There you go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so if you notice, when I put the two colors in, the two colors overlap. So this now is, let's find out. This one is first 0.7, we know that, and this is 0.5. Okay, so where do the two colors overlap? This will be the product of 0.7 times 0.5. And if you count that, there are 35 small squares that are shaded green. Okay, therefore 0.7 times 0.5 is 0.35. Okay, let's take a look at example 2. Let's try to model 0.9 times 2.3. You need to draw 3 10 by 10 squares. Okay, why? Because you have two holes and a part of the hole. So you draw 10 by 10 squares. Line up the squares as shown. Color 9 rows blue to represent 0.9. Okay, and let's get my blue, or purple for that matter. Okay, this is 0.9 of the 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 10. Okay, and the color 23 columns yellow to represent 2.3. So to represent 2.3, we have these. Okay, it's not yellow, it's green. So 1, 2, and 3 tenths, that's 2.3. And if you notice, this is your, okay, 0.9, and this is your 2.3. If we count the number of squares, okay, that are shaded green, meaning where they both overlap, it would be 200 small squares that are shaded. Okay, that means this would cover 2 10 by 10 squares, which is 2, and 7 small squares, which is 0.07. And that's the reason why the answer of 0.9 times 2.3 is 2.0712. Okay, if you fill that in, okay, and fill these in on top of here, we'll end up with 2 whole squares and 7 small squares. Okay, and that's how you multiply decimals using, using models. But again, when you talk about models, it becomes impractical when the decimals become bigger. So let's find another way of multiplying decimals. Okay, so in this lesson 4-3, you'll learn to multiply decimals. And when am I ever going to use this? Knowing how to multiply decimals can help you find the amount of tip to leave at a restaurant. Okay, on September 1, 1997, the minimum wage increased to $5.15 an hour. If Domingo works 17.5 hours a week and earns a minimum wage, how much does he make each week before taxes? Okay, now to answer this question, you need to multiply 5.15 by 17.5. When you multiply decimals, multiply as if with whole numbers, and one way to take to place the decimal point is to use estimation. Just like 4-2, we can use estimation to be able to find the product of two decimals. So let's start. Let's estimate 5 times 20 equals 100. Why? Because 5.515 rounds to 5 and 17.5 rounds to 20. So the answer should be close to 100. Okay, so let's start 5.15 times 7.15. Okay, multiply them as if they're whole numbers. Okay, and then why do we get 90.125? Because our estimate is 100, and if we only have 90,125, okay, the most logical answer would be putting the decimal after the 0, okay, for to be able to get the product. And that's how you find the product of two decimals by using estimation. But then again, estimation becomes very unreliable and very tedious. So what we want to do now is find another method, and another way to place a decimal point in the product is by counting decimal places in each factor. The product will have the same number of decimal places as the sum of the number of decimal places in the factor. This will be more clear as we go through this. Again, the product will have the same number of decimal places as the sum of the decimal places in the factors. Okay. Now, in all these examples, the traditional method of multiplying will apply, but I will show you the lattice method as well. Okay. So let's start. 2.4 times 5.9. Okay, we go back to our estimation. We estimate 2.2 times 6 equals 12 because 2.4 is rounded to 2. 5.9 is rounded to 6, so our answer should be around 6. Okay, so 5.9, 1 decimal place, and 2.4, 1 decimal place as well. Okay, and if we multiply them, 4 times 9 is 36, carry 3, 4 times 5 is 20, 23. The next line would be, okay, 2 times 9 is 18, carry 1, 2 times 5 is 10, carry 1 is 11, add them all up, end up with, okay, 14.16. Why 2 decimal places? Because we simply added the 1 decimal place plus another 1 decimal place will give us 2 decimal places. Okay, let's see how we solve this using the lattice method. And again, since there are 2 digits each, okay, we disregard our decimal first. Okay, so we use, okay, well, that's not a good square. Let me redo that. Okay. So we first create our lattice, a 2 by 2 lattice. Why 2 by 2 lattice? Because 2 digits here, 2 digits there. So let's create our lattice of 2 by 2. That's one 2 by 2, and another 2 by 2. And again, from a lattice, we divide our squares into 2 triangles, where the top part of the triangle represents the tens place, the bottom part represents the ones place. Okay, so this is 24, disregarding the decimal for now, and this is 59. And we multiply. 2 times 5 is 10, 4 times 5 is 20, 4 times 9 is 36, and 9 times 2 is 18. Okay, add diagonally. This is 6, this is 11, carry 1, 3, 4, and 1. Then we write the number this way. So you have 1, 4, 1, 6, and we follow this rule right here, which is 2 decimal places, so you have 14.16. And that is how you find the product using the lattice method. Let's take a look at example number 2. Find 1.45 times 0.7. Okay, let's estimate first. 1.45 is rounded as 1, 0.7 is rounded as 1, so our answer should be close to 1. Okay, so let's start 1.45. It has 2 decimal places, multiplied by 0.7, which has 1 decimal place. If you sum that up, you should have answer of 3 decimal places. Okay, traditional method of multiplying, you end up with 1.015. Why 3 decimal places? because you have 2 plus 1 gives you 3 decimal places. Okay? Let's move on to the next example. Example number 3. Example number 3 asks to multiply 0.02 times 1.36. Start with estimation again. 0 times 0.1 is 0, so the answer should be close to 0. Okay, so you have 1.36 has 2 decimal places, multiplied by 0.02 has 2 decimal places. Again, our product should have 4 decimal places, because 2 plus 2 should give you 4 decimal places. Okay, and the key to multiplying this type of a number, even though you have 0.02, is all you need to do is multiply it by 2. 2 times 6 is 12, carry 1, 2 times 3 is 6, 7, and 2 times 1 is 2. You don't have to use the 0 in your traditional method, and that's why you end up with 0.272, because you have 4 decimal places after adding the 2. Okay? Lastly, let's look at our algebra connection, and it's asking us to evaluate 4.3 n if n equals 10.89. We can use the lattice method on this one as well, but let's take a look at the traditional method first. Okay, we know for a fact that when you say 4.3n, it indicates a multiplication operation, and we also know that when you say evaluate, it means find the value of, and 2 steps to find the value of is to substitute and to simplify. Okay, so 4.3n equals 4.3 times 10.89, because we substituted or replaced the value of n, which is 10.89. Okay, and let's estimate our answer. 4 times 11, because this rounds to 4, this rounds to 11. Our answer should be close to 44, and the lazy way of doing this is by well, not this one. In your book it says use a calculator, but we're not going to do that. Use the traditional method of doing it. Okay, you have 3 times 9 is 27, times 8 you end up with 3,267, and then use 4. Okay, end up with 4 times 10.89 will be 3,356. Add them all up, end up with 46.827. Why is that? Because you have 2 decimal places here. Oopsie. Okay. 2 decimal places here. Okay. Plus 1 decimal place. Your answer should end up with 3 decimal places. And there you have it, 3 decimal places. Okay, as promised, we'll use the lattice method to solve this. Okay. You have 4.3 times 10.89. You have 2 digits and 4 digits. So you will use a 4 by 2 grid or a 2 by 4 grid. It doesn't really matter. I'll use a 4 by 2 grid. So 1, 2, 4. Whoa, that's straight. And a 2 by 2 grid right there. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 digits for 1089, and 2 digits for 4.3. Okay, again we divide our squares or rectangles in this case. Okay, 5 and 2. And this is the real world application of it. You cannot do a perfect lattice unless you draw it with your ruler and measure each square. Okay, let's start. You have 1089. We will disregard the decimal points first. 1089 and 43 right here. And we start multiplying. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, 0 times 4 is 0. 8 times 4 is 32. And 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 3 is 27. 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 0 is 0. And 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, add them vertically. That's a 7. That's a 12. Carry 1, 4, 6, 8. Okay, that's a 6. That's a 4. And that's a 0. So we simply write this out this way, end up with 4, 6, 8, 2, 7, and we simply follow this rule and apply it to our number, 3 decimal places, end up with 46.827. So we solved our problem using the traditional method and using the lattice method. And that's about it, boys and girls, on Google Forms or Monday Campus. Type a summary of what you've learned corresponding to the objective of the lesson. I have a question you may want to ask in class about this lesson. Thank you.